the young farmer everyone ignored returned. 1 year later, as the region's biggest producer, the morning sun had barely risen over the village when the laughter began. Not the laughter of joy, the laughter of mockery. 23-year-old Daniel stood at the edge of a dusty field, holding a notebook filled with farming plans. His clothes were worn, his boots were old, his savings account was nearly empty. But his dreams were enormous. As the older farmers gathered beneath a large mango tree, Daniel approached them with excitement. "I've been studying new farming methods," he said. "I think we can double our harvests." The men looked at each other. Then one of them burst into laughter. Soon everyone joined in. "Double harvests," one farmer mocked. "With what money?" another asked. "Boy, farming isn't learned from books." The laughter echoed across the village. Daniel forced a smile, but inside the words cut deep. Little did they know that this moment would become the biggest mistake of their lives. Most people would have given up. Daniel didn't. That night, while the village slept, a small lantern glowed inside his tiny room. Books covered the table, agricultural journals, crop reports, soil studies, videos downloaded whenever he could find internet access. While others rested, Daniel studied. While others complained, Daniel learned. Every page revealed something new: precision planting, water management, improved seed selection, natural pest control. He began to see opportunities everywhere. But there was one problem. Knowledge was free, implementation was expensive, and Daniel had almost nothing. Still, he refused to quit. Because sometimes the difference between success and failure is simply the refusal to stop. Weeks later, Daniel visited the local cooperative. He needed a loan, not a large one, just enough to start. The manager listened patiently, then shook his head. No collateral, rejected. Daniel tried another lender, rejected, another rejected, another rejected. Every door closed. Every opportunity disappeared. By the end of the month, Daniel sat alone beneath a tree, staring at his empty wallet. For the first time, doubt entered his mind. Maybe the villagers were right. Maybe he was dreaming too big. Maybe success belonged only to people born with advantages. The thought lingered. Then something happened. An elderly woman from the village approached him. She had watched his struggle in silence. Without saying much, she handed him a small envelope. Inside was money she had saved for years. "I believe in hard work," she said. "Don't waste it." Daniel stared in shock. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to begin. And sometimes a single believer can change everything. The planting season arrived. While other farmers followed their traditional methods, Daniel did something different. He measured spacing carefully. He tested soil conditions. He monitored water usage. He kept detailed records. The villagers watched and laughed again. Look at him writing notes. Maybe the crops will read the notebook. The jokes spread quickly. Children repeated them. Adults repeated them. Daniel heard every word. Yet he continued, day after day, week after week, month after month, because he understood something important. The crowd often laughs before it applauds. Then came the drought, the worst in years. Rain stopped falling. The ground cracked, streams dried up. Farmers began to panic. Entire fields turned brown. Every morning brought worse news. Many feared they would lose everything. Even Daniel felt fear. His investment was at risk. His future hung in the balance. But unlike most farmers, he had prepared. The water conservation methods he studied began to make a difference. His crops suffered, but they survived. Across the village, fields continued dying. Yet Daniel's remained stubbornly alive. People noticed, whispers began. How was this possible? Nobody had answers. Not yet. As weeks passed, the difference became impossible to ignore. Green crops stood where dead fields surrounded them. Farmers who once laughed now walked by quietly. Some stopped to observe. Others secretly copied his methods. The same notebook they mocked suddenly became interesting. The same ideas they rejected suddenly seemed valuable. But Daniel wasn't celebrating. He knew survival wasn't victory. Harvest Day would reveal the truth, and Harvest Day was coming. The morning finally arrived. Trucks rolled into the fields. Workers gathered. Families watched. Excitement filled the air. Then the numbers started coming in. 1 truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks, 4 trucks. The harvest kept growing and growing and growing. People stared in disbelief. No one had seen anything like it. The yields shattered local records. Even Daniel struggled to believe the results. Months of sacrifice had paid off. Every insult, every rejection, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt. It had all led here, but the biggest surprise was still ahead. Word spread beyond the village. Nearby towns began talking. Agricultural officers arrived. Researchers requested meetings. Business owners wanted partnerships. Journalists came with cameras. Everyone wanted to know the secret. The same people who once ignored Daniel now competed for his attention. His phone never stopped ringing. Opportunities appeared from every direction. For the first time in his life, people listened when he spoke. Not because he had changed, but because his results had become impossible to ignore. Success has a strange way of making people hear what they once dismissed. Within months, Daniel expanded operations. He leased additional land, hired workers, purchased better equipment, built storage facilities, and created jobs. Families who had struggled for years suddenly found employment. Young people who planned to leave the village stayed. The local economy began to improve. What started as one farmer's dream became something much larger. A transformation, not just for Daniel, but for everyone. And yet he never forgot the days when nobody believed. Those memories remained fresh. They kept him humble. They reminded him how quickly opinions can change. 1 year after the laughter beneath the mango tree, the village held its annual agricultural gathering. The same event, the same location, the same people. But everything felt different. A large crowd gathered. They weren't there to mock Daniel. They were there to hear him speak. The village leader stepped forward. Today, we recognize the region's biggest producer. Everyone already knew the name, Daniel. Applause erupted. The sound echoed across the fields. Many of the men who once laughed now stood silently. Some looked embarrassed, others looked amazed. A few simply shook their heads in disbelief. How had the young man they ignored become the most successful producer in the region? The answer wasn't luck, it wasn't magic, it wasn't privilege. It was persistence. Daniel stepped onto the platform. The crowd waited. Many expected him to boast, to remind everyone how wrong they had been. Instead, he smiled. "I want to thank everyone who doubted me." The crowd looked surprised. He continued, "Because every time someone I couldn't do it, I worked harder. Every joke became motivation. Every rejection became fuel. Every obstacle became a lesson. The truth is, success doesn't belong to the smartest person. It doesn't belong to the richest person. It belongs to the person who keeps going after everyone else stops." Silence filled the gathering. Those words hit differently because everyone knew his story. Everyone knew the struggle. Everyone knew the odds. And everyone knew he had beaten them. After the ceremony ended, people surrounded Daniel. Young farmers asked questions. Older farmers sought advice. Business owners proposed partnerships. Children requested photographs. The attention was overwhelming. Yet Daniel's greatest victory wasn't the awards. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even becoming the region's biggest producer. His greatest victory was proving that dreams don't need permission. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need applause at the beginning. You don't need approval from the crowd. Sometimes all you need is the courage to continue when nobody is watching. Because the same people who laugh at your vision today may someday celebrate your success. Years later, people would tell the story of the young farmer who transformed an entire region. They would remember the drought, the harvest, the awards, and the success. But Daniel remembered something else. A small envelope given by an elderly woman who simply believed in hard work. One act of faith, one opportunity, one chance. That was where everything truly began. Because behind every great success story is often one person who believed when nobody else did. And behind every impossible achievement is someone who refused to quit. The young farmer everyone ignored returned 1 year later as the region's biggest producer. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was the richest, not because he was the luckiest, but because while others laughed, he learned. While others doubted, he worked. While others quit, he continued. And in the end, the harvest spoke louder than any words ever could. Never underestimate a person with a vision, a plan, and the determination to keep going when nobody else believes.